The Tush Push lives, Rube.
It does, at least for another year. The Eagles will have their unstoppable, virtually unstoppable play available to them. I don't think it's going to last much longer, but hey, at least they have it this year.
High drama on Wednesday morning in Minneapolis. So we figured, hey, we're going to pop on and do an emergency podcast. The Tush Push vote fails. The Packers proposal does not pass. It means the Tush Push is around for the 2025 season. And this is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan, Reuben Frank, and Dave Zangaro. Games are exciting. Don't get me wrong. This was really exciting. Jason Kelce flies out to Minneapolis. He goes into the meeting with Jeffrey Lurie. Then they call just the meeting with just the owners in there. And you think, oh, man, they're going to sneak this through. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I guess two of the Eagles' biggest triumphs in the last decade have been in Minneapolis, right? so, uh, yeah, I'm really surprised. I would love to know. Look, it was close. The vote was very close. They barely made it. I just feel like the league is going to find a way to ban this thing at some point, and get a couple more teams on board. But as of now, it's available. I'd love to know what Jeff Lurie and Jason Kelce said to, I would guess, sway a couple votes their way. We know Jason Kelsey's an extremely um, well-spoken and forceful speaker and dynamic and has a way of getting his point across. But yeah, it's. I'm sure more details will come out in the coming days. There might be a podcast that some of those details come out on soon. But for now, yeah, it's this is big. And look, I think they would have been good on the goal line and short yardage without it, but with it, they're borderline unstoppable.
Yeah, like obviously the play staying is good from a football perspective, but for some reason this ended up feeling personal. It ended up feeling like a personal attack on the Eagles, and I think they felt that way because the Packers' proposal initially was so specific. It was clearly targeting one play that one team runs exceptionally well. A few other teams have run it with varying levels of success, but this is the Eagles' play. It's something they figured out. It's a loophole basically from a rule change that happened 20 years ago. But they figured out a way to be successful with a play that is not a rugby play. It is a football play. And yeah, it felt like a personal attack on them that it got this far. And then, really, I think back to the owners' meetings in early April when I was in Palm Beach and hearing Rich McKay step up there and say that the aesthetics of the play became a big talking point in the discussion. It's like, okay, well, what are we doing here? How disingenuous is everyone going to be about this? They're still citing player safety. There's no data to support that. So, what is it actually about? And I think it was just actually about teams didn't want that play to be legal anymore. And so it was frustrating to watch it play out this way because I thought, man, they're just going to push this through. Pretty clear the commissioner wanted it. Pretty clear the competition committee was on board with banning it. But it shows you the influence that Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles have.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Jeff Lurie's been owner of this team for 30 years. He's got great relationships with the other owners. He's an all-time look. He's an all-time NFL owner. His teams have gone to 4 Super Bowls now, and 4 of the 5 that the franchise has gone to. And he's got authority in that room. I mean, he's one of the voices that people listen to more than any other, based on his intelligence, his persuasiveness, and his track record, and just his longevity. He's become one of those guys, one of those old guard owners who I mean, he's been around since the mid '90s. So I don't think there's any question that helped. And when he speaks, people listen, and enough people listen today to make the difference in this vote.
He reportedly spoke for over a half hour in that meeting. And based on some of the tidbits we've kind of gathered from what he said, he brought up the point that you can't vote against this play and say it's for player safety. It's such a safe play. You'd actually be risking player safety if you ban this play because of how safe it is. That was part of his point. And Jason Kelsey explained on New Heights that the reason he was thinking about going to Minneapolis was just to clear up some of the misconceptions about the play. There were all these stories out there. I think the Bills owner kind of brought up like that he retired because of the wear and tear from this play, which isn't true. So I think he wanted to go and clear up some of those misconceptions and answer questions about the safety of the play from the perspective of someone who was in the middle of it for 2 years.
Yeah, and good for him. I mean, he doesn't play for the team anymore. He's not technically employed by the team. He works out at the NovaCare, and we see him here and there, but um, he's got a lot going on in his life, and for him to prioritize this, something that's going to help his former team, I think that's huge. And you know, he could have very easily just talked about it on the podcast and then let the vote happen. And maybe Lori would have been enough to sway those swing voters, but that shows me a lot. And Jason Kelsey, look, he spent his whole career here. This franchise, this city means the world to him. His teammates, his former coaches, his former coaches are still here. So that's really cool that he did that. And his voice has so much sway. I mean, the guy's going to be most likely a first ballot Hall of Fame center in 5 years, so or in 4 years. So yeah, that's really huge. And just getting back to what you were saying before about how it's personal. I mean, when you look at where the Eagles are, they've averaged 12 wins a year the last 4 years under Nick. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. They won one. They've been in the playoffs every year. Teams are jealous of their success, and they don't want them to be as good as they are because if they're not, they have a better chance to get to the Super Bowl. Especially NFC teams. So I mean, I've never seen anything. I think we said this earlier in the week. I've never seen a proposed rule change that targets one team. And that tells you it's personal. That tells you it's just we're jealous of the Eagles' success and we want to make them less successful. And here's a sneaky way we can do it under the guise of player safety or aesthetics, which are what does that mean? I mean, is a goal is a keeper on at the goal line from the 10-inch line, is that aesthetically pleasing as a 50-yard bomb to AJ? No, but that's not what the game's about. And there's a lot of plays that are not aesthetically pleasing, So I mean, it's so disingenuous. It's so just that nobody has the guts. None of these other owners have the guts to stand up and say, we just don't want the Eagles to be good, and this is our only way of trying to hurt them.
Yeah, like it would have been stupid, but I would have respected owners who were like, "Yeah, I don't like the play. I think it's unfair because they're so good at it." Like it would be stupid, but it wouldn't be completely made up. And yeah, we should mention that still pretty close. I mean, it was close to getting banned, which you have Jason Kelsey sitting in there explaining why it's not a dangerous play when the proposal cites player safety as the main reason to ban it. And we've heard Sean McDermott say that it's about like being proactive and preventing injuries before they happen. I think a big push from the player safety committee was about like anything like pushing the helmet, pushing the head, which isn't a part of the play. Very strange. And the Packers, a lot of people have the theory that they were used for this because there's not like a face of an owner, right? Which
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. There's no one to push back on. I think that's probably true. But the original proposal, they screwed up. I mean, they should have had the broad language to begin with. It's really tough to then put the worms back in the can because or the toothpaste back in the tube, right? Because like once you
Or
have
the
the plan,
worms back in the tube, if you wish.
once you have the narrow plan, like you're not fooling anyone by making it broader so that it's not pinpointed at one team, which is something that was an issue right from the beginning. And honestly, I didn't think any of this would matter. I thought they were just going to push it through because it's what the commissioner wanted. It's what clearly um, the competition committee was on board with once the wording got changed. So yeah, I'm surprised today that it's still live, but it should be.
Yeah, and just to clarify what Dave is saying, the Packers are publicly owned, publicly traded. The owner of the Packers are the shareholders of the Green Bay Packers, and it's something that has been grandfathered through. you can't do that now, but they've always been that way. They don't have an owner. They have, I guess, the stockholders vote on a chairman, just like any other publicly traded company.
Mark Murphy is their CEO.
Yeah, so it's a really unusual structure, and I hadn't made that connection that they don't have. Yeah, there's no single owner where you can say, he's the ringleader here. The people, the shareholders are the leader. I wonder if the shareholders took a vote, how that would turn out. But because the CEO is supposed to kind of carry out the wishes of the shareholders, right? I don't think they had that vote. Do you want to go over some of the? You said the vote was 22 to 10.
22 to 10, and they would need 75% to pass any rule change, not just this one. So they would need 24 votes. They finished 2 shy. We don't know all the teams that sided with the Eagles, but we know
Great
there were.
song, by the way, "Too Shy" by Kajagoogoo. I'm just going to interject there.
I think that's a worthwhile interjection, of
I
course.
do. So
Yeah.
do you want to go? You have some that we know some of the teams that voted with the
We
Eagles.
do. So obviously, the Eagles are one of the 10 teams. There were 9 others. According to Adam Schefter, the Ravens, Patriots, Jets, and Lions were with them. Those are the only 4 we know right now.
The
I think
3
it's
AFC teams. So that's interesting to me.
3 AFC teams and the Lions, who Dan Campbell, when asked about the play, was pretty vocal. Like, hey, like we shouldn't just ban this because they're good at it. We should try to find a way to stop it. So give Dan
And
Campbell credit.
good for them because they're pretty much the Eagles' biggest or the Eagles are their biggest competition in the NFC, really. So good for them for for not being petty and just voting it down because they're a threat to the Lions.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're the only NFC team we know for sure, and they're the next best team in the NFC. I think that says a lot about them, a lot about Dan Campbell and their ownership. Uh, I would assume that the former coordinators who have left Philadelphia got their owners to vote with the Eagles. I guess we don't know for sure, but you would imagine the Saints, Colts, and Cardinals were with them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, especially the 2 of those, the Colts and the Saints, whose head coaches are former offensive coaches with the Eagles. I assume Gannon as well. I mean, it would be really hypocritical for Kellen Moore to vote against it, or his organization to vote against it when he's got a ring in part because of that play. Um, but yeah, it's I think the other teams will come out, but um, it's I'm shocked. I mean, I thought it had about I was in the 90 percentile as far as passing because, like you said yesterday, these things don't come up to a vote when they're going to fail. So you knew it was going to be close if they were going to do a vote. I thought it was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it was going into that meeting. We don't know. We probably never will know, but it's the reason it was tabled back in late March, early April. At that time, the straw poll had it like 16-16. So right down the middle, it was could they get another 8 votes? They only got 6.
Yeah, and I wonder what the future is like. Will the competition committee keep tweaking the language to try to find something that can get them 2 more votes? I would expect that. I think they'll keep trying to get rid of this play.
Yeah, it's almost like it seems silly that it's going to probably continue to happen, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance of that. Now, I think the next time it gets proposed, and look, we should point out this was not the first time it was proposed. It happened back in 2023, coming off the 2022 season, and it didn't even make it close to a vote. It barely made it to the owners' meetings. It got taken off because it didn't have the support. Then they win the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden it has some more support going into it. I would think the next time, if there is a next time it gets proposed, they're going to start with the language they ended with this time, basically making it illegal for any runner to be pushed or pulled. But I think that honestly, the language needs some work too. They threw the word individually in there, which like wouldn't that technically make combo blocks illegal?
Yeah.
So like I think there's work to be done because you have to make it's kind of a funny situation to be in when you look at it. Like you have to make the wording broad enough so that it just it doesn't make it look like you're attacking one team, but you also have to make it narrow enough so you're not having unintended consequences by banning one play.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And I wonder if there's wiggle room within that current language, that amended language, um, to make it more amenable to two of the 10 or two of the nine. We know the Eagles aren't going to change their vote. Um, they're going to, I mean, they're going to look, if the same 32 owners are voting in, at the next owners meetings next spring or next winter, I would think the vote will be the same if they don't change the language.
Well,
So,
I don't know. You have a long time before then, and a lot of
yeah.
deals can be made.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true, and there's a lot of that stuff goes on. I mean, there's backroom deals between owners, and I'll give you this if you give me this. So, so we'll see. But man, the league's going to go crazy when they when they line up for this play. I mean, they're gonna. This is going to be. They tried to take it away. They did everything they could. They almost pulled it off, but it's still a play the Eagles are going to run, and they should open the season with it. Even it's like 1st and 10 on their own 30. Just do a tush push just to get the crowd going nuts against the Cowboys. But yeah, it's a just unprecedented sequence of events. You thought you were done with it. Dave's like the beat writer. He's like the tush push beat writer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been easier that way because I've been following it so closely. We should mention this is a big win, obviously, for Jeffrey Lurie and Jason Kelsey. John Ferrari uh,
Mm,
really spearheads a lot of this for the Eagles. He's assistant general manager, but he's always dealing in the football rules world, and he's great at that. He's someone who we don't talk about a ton when you talk about the Eagles front office. It's obviously Howie. We talk about Alec Hallaby, who's another assistant GM, but Ferrari lives in this world of rules, and it's a big win for him today.
yeah, he's a really bright guy, and he knows the ins and outs of every not just rules, but just how the game operates and the functions, and
And the
really,
strategy element of it all. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and he's able to kind of take all that and translate it into football language for the coaches, and um, yeah, he's a really valuable, like you said, underrated guy in the organization.
And I also appreciate the Eagles' level of petty. And after the ruling, they tweeted out a photo of a tush push happened to be against the Green Bay Packers, which you know I I'm here for that, and I have to think in Week 10 they're going to run that play quite a bit,
Yeah, their social media is. I like that. I like it. Some good pettiness in social media.
especially in this situation. The whole thing felt petty, so why not? I mean,
Sure.
gloat a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens next. But Eagles have their play, and I mean, where would you characterize your? Like I said, I was about 90%. It was going to get passed. Where were you on that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know about a percentage, but I was definitely high. I mean, I thought for sure. Once you're watching the way it's trending, you're reading the
Yeah.
tea leaves, and typically when the commissioner wants something, when they have the player safety committee on board, it's kind of an easy pass normally. And by the nature of the way they tabled it the last time, reworked the language. Yeah, I really thought they were going to ban the play.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. If they run this play this year and someone gets hurt on it, goodbye, goodbye, tush push.
Which is so crazy because, like, anyone can get hurt on any play, but
Sure. Yeah.
and, the irony of this all is that we don't know for sure. The Eagles would probably be an excellent team. They'd probably be still one of the best in the league in short yardage situations without the push element.
No question. There's no question about it. And I remember having that conversation with Kelsey 3 years ago. I think it was when when we kind of sensed that he was going to retire. He was talking about, we're still going to be good in the goal line without me. Look at who we have. We don't need to tush push. He's really confident that they'll be just almost as good in those situations without it, and without him. Obviously, I have a center who's pretty good now. Um, kind of part of me kind of like you were looking forward to seeing how they would operate in short yardage without the play. I mean, I
Yeah, a
think,
little bit.
yeah. So, and hey, maybe they'll run it a couple times without the push. I mean, Nick likes to keep things, unpredictable.
Well, the fun thing, and Nick will tell you this, and it's something I've enjoyed, is the wrinkles off of it.
Yeah,
Like they have some, they haven't used them a ton, but you have to do it because you think it's an effective play, whether it's a pitch off of the formation or whatever it is. Like you have to do it because you think it's a good play, but you have to do it because if you can have 1 second of doubt in a linebacker and in Frankie Louvu's head at the snap, maybe not Louvu, any other normal linebacker who's not flying across the line of scrimmage. If you
yeah,
can put like a half second of doubt in their mind, they're not attacking it the same way. And like to me, that's fun. I know like we're talking about the aesthetics of the play, and maybe people think it doesn't look good, but are you telling me that element's not fun? Like that's
yeah,
really cool. That chess match is what football's all about.
yeah. I think they threw off it on a third down this past year, and it was incomplete. The play didn't work. They ran a pitch off it that did work. I don't
Yeah, and
remember.
the throw was like the play would have worked.
Right,
It was just the execution was off.
right, exactly. So you can do different things off it, and I would expect that they'll continue to do that. Not a lot, but here and there to keep teams thinking and wondering and not knowing.
In 22, I kept pushing Shane Steichen to throw a shot play off it. I just wanted to see what it would look like.
Well, you know what? If the Eagles score a touchdown with a pitch off the tush push look, the league might try to ban that. If you line up for a tush push, you can't throw off it. They'll find something to tweak the Eagles on.
And not an original thought. This has been said a bunch of times already, but 22-10 was also the score of the Eagles Packers game. And yeah,
Oh, interesting.
kind of funny.
Yeah. So you think they planned that score knowing what the vote was going to be? Oh, interesting stuff. Yeah, it's a funny, weird, unique chapter in Eagles history here.
Yeah, and it continues, which is a lot of fun.
That's one word for it.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe there as well. This is our third podcast out of 4 during a week in May, which is pretty unprecedented, but we wanted to jump on here and just give our thoughts on the Tush Push sticking around in 2025. Reuben, any final thoughts?
Well, just I think we're going to take some extra questions tomorrow. We're going to do a lot of Q&A, so you have 24 hours to get your questions in, maybe a little less than that. Take a lot of questions tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.